Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and I, over the last couple of days, bumped into Matt Sweeney, and Matt is the Juvenile Justice Director for Rogue Valley Youth for Christ, and he shared with me a little story that that really moved me deep, and I thought, you know what, I said, Matt, you got to come in and do that on the air, and so we made some arrangements, and here you are 2 days later, and thanks for coming in, and I was genuinely moved by what you told me. And for years, you've been now working with the juvenile justice system in Southern Oregon. For how long have you been doing this now?
Since '97, so 17 years.
Really? It's just been amazing. And it takes a special calling of God to go in there and work with those kids, doesn't it?
People tell me that. I just do what, I don't know.
What do you do when you go in there? What do you do?
My role as a chaplain, we have lots of volunteers who go in and do a lot of work. And my job, part of my job is to supervise that. There's about 10 people going in on a regular basis. And we do Thursday night groups, group discussion, Bible studies. We have Sunday chapel teams. We have one gentleman who's been going in on Monday night in a unit. There's 2 detention pods, only one is open right now. But upstairs in the detention center building, there's another unit that's referred to as CBT, which stands for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. It's a treatment unit that the county runs, and it's all boys, about 14 beds, and they are placed there for 6 months of intense behavioral therapy.
Wow. Trying
to break some very bad habits, bad patterns.
Well, it is a special calling. I mean, I remember when you were taking the step of faith many, many years ago to go in and do this, and God has rewarded you for this. But all of these years you've been faithful to this, and now the county recognizes what you're doing, and they've opened up a very unique door. Tell us about it.
Well, the CBT unit, they've learned from experience that they can give these guys this intense guidance, help, assistance, and then they send them home back to the lives that they came from in the first place, where they don't have the support.
Right back into the same environment.
Right back into the same environment. And so what happens, I mean, they do work to try and do family therapy, that kind of stuff, but still, there's still a lack of support in many of these cases. And finally, the head of the facility came to me and said, would you please provide mentors for the kids in CBT?
Wow.
And she's not a believer, but she knows that we bring the gospel clear and strong. She said, your people, they can tell them about Jesus. You can take kids to church if they want to go. We will make arrangements for the mentors to have time with the kids outside of the facility. We will do everything we can to make these mentor matches successful, and we want the mentor matches to continue after the kids leave the CBT unit. 17
years you've been doing this. Has this door ever opened?
Not like this. Not like this. Okay. I mean, there's been doors opening in different places, but this one just, I went home, or back to my office that day, and I was stunned.
Well, folks, I want you to think about this now, whether it's you or somebody you know or somebody in your church or friends. This is a very unique open door. And what Matt needs is mentors, some men and women to come along, some families. I don't know, is that what am I saying right?
Couples would be great.
Couples would be great.
Yeah. The minimum requirements as far as age is they have to be at least 21 years old.
Okay.
And they've got to be willing to make a bare minimum 1-year commitment, although realistically, we want a lot more.
Right. And what are you asking them to do?
It's a matter of getting involved in the life of a kid, building a relationship, spending a few hours each week, especially at the start, where the relationship is being based and built on building the foundation for it.
Well, again, pray about this, think about this, consider this. Maybe you are a staff member in the church. You can talk about it collectively as a staff. Are there couples in your church or you yourself willing to invest some time into the life of a young boy who's really hit the wall emotionally and needs genuine love? And guess what? you can share the gospel with them, you can love on them, and you can take them to church. I mean, this is an unbelievable door that's been opened up. And we both know, I mean, the statistics are clearly in your favor, Matt, and you've been doing it all these years. I've seen the statistic. In fact, we've run the television special of what's happening in Angola. We've had the people on from the LA Police Department and others who've gotten in. And when the gospel is presented, lives are changed. It's as simple as that, you know.
Yes, and this is a chance not only to present it in words. We give it to them very clear in the facility. We give them the gospel. This is a chance to walk with them through life, to model the love of God in their lives in a practical way.
Is there some training involved?
We have training. It takes a 3-hour block of training at the start, and then after you've been doing it for a few months, there's another 3-hour block of training. You start running into walls and challenges in those first few months, and so we address some issues.
It is a little bit of a roller coaster ride, but at the end, it's very rewarding.
It can be a very, very much a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
But we as the church, we have the only solution.
Yeah. Right.
And it's been given to us as a gift, and we have a chance to give that gift to others. It's amazing. Well,
again, all these years you've been doing that, and primarily boys, right?
It is. This particular area is boys, although I don't want to discount it. We have areas where we need women.
You do.
We've got girls waiting for mentors right now. But this is a new area, and in this particular facility, it's all boys. And I got to say, guys, the women step up a whole lot more readily than the men do.
Yeah.
We need to represent
manhood.
We need to step up and show the love of God.
I want to say to those of you who have, you guys out there who have come through a bumpy road yourself and you've been redeemed yourself. I've often said, and you've heard me say it, Matt, whatever God saves you from or brings you through usually turns you around and minister to you, makes you a minister too. And it's very possible your own childhood, your own teenagehood was pretty bumpy, and you get it, you understand it, and you know what redemption has done for you and what it could do to a young boy or a young girl. And I would really encourage you, and my prayer is that you don't get any sleep until you respond. That's my prayer. Yeah. I really believe that. I just think that, you know, we are put on earth, not for jobs and careers. We're put on earth to help one another. And here is an unbelievable door that Matt's been working with faithfully for 17 years. I've heard some of your stories. I don't know how you sleep at night. I really don't. I don't know how you sleep at night. You go home and you hear these stories of family dynamics and kids and why these young guys are there and some of the things they got trapped in and the habits and everything else. It's just unbelievable, you know. And here's an opportunity to minister to them.
It's a moment in time that has been a long time coming.
Yeah.
And the opportunity is huge.
All right. There's a little training involved, so what do? Get a hold of you?
Get a hold of me. The Youth for Christ office number is 779-3275. If you lose that, I'm sure you can call the Dove because Sue has it. She knows how to reach us.
Yeah.
But yeah, give us a call. Men or women, we've got places to get opportunities of ministry that are just amazing.
Well, let me encourage you, 779-3275, pray about it. And if you're feeling the tug in your heart right now and you're saying, well, can I really do this? I'd like to do that. He's the guy that'll take care of all of those concerns. He'll teach you, train you, prepare you, give you the expectations of what you can figure out you're going to be up against and how this thing may work. But folks, here's an open door to take these young guys out of the facility, which I think is huge.
That's a big, big step.
That's a big step to get them out of the facility, love on them, share the gospel with them. More importantly, be a mentor. And a mentor, they're going to see the life of Jesus in you by you loving on them. Take them fishing, doing things, playing with them, take them out for a burger, take them to church, whatever. Sit down and watch the Olympics, ball games, and stuff like that. So, well, Matt, when I heard that, I was really moved in my heart, and I wanted to get you in right away and have people know that you have a need for men and women mentors, and the idealist couples. That's what I'm hearing you say.
I'll take any of it. What I'm looking for is people who have the courage to step up and say, here I am, Lord, send me. Couples are great, wonderful. I love the idea of couples mentoring together. Men, one-on-one with a boy, with a kid, I'm great with that. I think probably my personal favorite would be couples taking one kid. Although my boss, Bud, might scream at me saying that. That's my personal thing.
Well, I have to tell you, I have read of testimonies where businessmen, because of their own upbringing in childhood and dynamics, have turned around and taken their lunch hour, maybe one or two a week, maybe one a week, whatever, a couple a month, and taken a young boy to lunch. Because if it wasn't for God, they would probably still be wrapped up in that system themselves. So think about it, pray about it. The number is 779-3275. Matt Sweeney, he's the guy heading it up. Thank you, friend, for sharing that with us. Pray that you just get flooded with people who want to get involved.
Perry, thank you very much.
You got it. All right, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Welcome back. Well, as you know, our legislature is in session, what they call a special session, and that was put into place here a couple of sessions ago. And this is the first full session under this new constitutional amendment to have these special sessions for 5 weeks on the even years. Well, Dave Dotterrer, who he has been uniquely positioned to be the budget liaison between the House and the Senate. And he also happens to be the Republican candidate for the Senate. So he's wearing multiple hats here today, but we like him anyway. Hi, Dave.
Hi. Thanks, Perry. That's a great intro.
All right. Nice to see you, my friend. Well, how goes the beat up there? What's happening?
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's talk about what's not happening.
All right.
One of the things that's not happening is any serious look into Cover Oregon. Now, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but there's rumors up there that they're going to change the name of Cover Oregon. The new name is going to be Duck and Cover Oregon. So they're going to, because you can see people ducking and covering here. It's absolutely unbelievable. Let me just let your listeners know about one thing also. Is 9:30 this morning at Congressman Walden's office. The congressman and Dennis Richardson are going to have make an announcement. I'm not going to tell you what it is, so let me just give you a little teaser here. But if you're really interested, people ought to tune in to that or go on down to support. But I can tell you, the announcement they're going to make about Cover Oregon is huge.
Well, it's
so
in the paper.
Give you that little teaser, 9:30 this morning.
It's already in the paper this morning. Apparently, they're looking into a federal investigation into Cover Oregon.
Yeah, that's where they're going with it. I just got off the phone with Dennis about it, and he said, "Well, now don't tell them exactly what it is." And I said, "Dennis, I'll bet you some of this is leaking out already."
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's out, and we'll.
At any rate, yeah, that's interesting. So as Dennis said. One time, he said, "Well, when these guys show up, what's that like?" And I said, "You know, when I was working in the Pentagon, when these guys showed up, your day was not a good day. I mean, it's just these guys are hard. So we'll have to see where this thing goes. But that's great. I didn't realize that it leaked out already there.
Yeah.
But that's not happening here because I can tell you that there's limited. There's almost no at the legislative level. There's no, we've talked about this, just there's no interest in, we'll look into this. I mean, there was the Republicans tried to put some, there's some legislation that makes some changes to Cover Oregon and to the Oregon Health Plan, and, based upon the disastrous rollout of Obamacare and all. And so they tried to put a couple things in there like, well, don't you think it's time for the Secretary of State to do an audit? The other one that they recommended an amendment that said that, if you're a legislator and you are on a state health plan, then you need to register through Cover Oregon. If it's good enough for people, and that got shot down. So these are the things that are not happening up here.
What happened to the gun bill?
Well, the gun bill it's interesting. The gun bill is still hanging out there. They've had an informational hearing. They're going to have what's called a work session here, and we'll see whether or not it comes out or not. There's a lot of people that are waffling on it and would rather not have to make any votes on it, and acting like well, I really haven't had a chance to read this yet or anything. But you know that I don't. We'll see how that one works out. That's one of those questionable pieces. See what comes of that. Last night they held an absolutely long, drawn-on informational hearing on the Columbia River crossing.
That's still alive?
It's still alive. You know, this is one of those things where you marvel at the ability of your government to keep alive a bad idea. You know, I mean, this is one of those. The basic argument is this. Well, yeah, this is imperfect. Well, it's not imperfect. It's horrible. But let's keep it alive because it's the only plan on the table. Let's see if we can shove this through and make something of it. You know, and at some point you just got to say, let's cut our losses, go back to the beginning, and let's do this right. But you know, there's people are still trying to push this thing through, and it's pretty amazing to watch it.
Now, for those who don't know, this is to build a new bridge over the Columbia River, and Washington State legislature has basically said no to the idea, and that leaves Oregon out there trying to figure out how to pay for the whole thing, and everything would have to be perfect for this thing to work. The government money coming in would have to be perfect. The toll system would have to be perfect. The construction would have to come in under budget. And when's the last time any of that's happened?
Yeah. Oh, you know, let's see. How do we do with Cover Oregon?
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, that's your standard, you know, and you could say, well, we'll do better, but you know, that's a pretty low bar. So yeah, it's too much of a stretch right now. I mean, there's issues there of, well, Oregon will go alone. Well, to make this work, we'd have to have the Oregon taxpayer paying for improving the roads on the Washington side, because this thing doesn't work unless you get both in on it. So yeah, so we'll just see where that one's going to go. But you're right, the guns. Another one that, of course, you would think maybe would pop back up again, but you know, PERS is nowhere to be found.
Wow.
You know, people are kind of thinking, well, you know, we got by that one, and the market's up a little bit, and we did some reform of it, but you could, I suppose you could say that they ought to do that. Although, you know, back to our discussion the other day, Perry, about how much do you really want to try to get done in one of these little short sessions? Again, this is meant to be course correction. So you could make the argument that PERS is a stretch too far, but then, so why are you trying to do these things with the CRC, which is even a bigger stretch, or some of the ideas of, quote, fixing Cover Oregon? So again, you're not seeing anything happen there.
Anything on the agenda, Dave, that would look like something that would benefit small business?
Well, there was a bill that was passed through the Senate that talked about increasing the some small business loans, but no, beyond that, we're not. You don't see anything. Again, well, I shouldn't say you don't see anything. You do see some proposals out there that have been put forward to help small business, to help jobs in the economy, but as best I can tell, as usual, they're going nowhere.
Okay. So what's the governor doing during the special session? What is he in the building? Is he showing up? Is he driving any issue besides the Columbia River Bridge?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't seen him around here that much. But I mean, you know, again, but the CRC is important to him. So those are the ones. That's all I'm seeing, at least from my level. He certainly has not been in to see either one of the leaders, although you know they've held some meetings. So I don't want to make it sound like he's not here. But I don't see big pushes. Let me put it that way.
This is kind of interesting. So it may be a ho-hum special session primarily because it's an election year. Nobody wants to get stuck with anything. Yeah, that's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And you know, that raises a point. I was just thinking a few sessions ago that you and I had a discussion, and you were talking about the healthcare issue, and gosh, Dave, don't you think there's going to be an uprising here sometime? And I got to thinking about your statement, Perry, and it's a very, very good one. And people are really, really up in arms about it. But you know, one of our God-given
rights and our God-given responsibilities here in Oregon, in the United States, is that, you know, we don't really have uprisings. What we have is we have elections, and so people need to go vote. That's the way to get these things changed. Right. You know. So I just was thinking about that the other day when you mentioned that, and I thought, yeah, you know, this whole thing with the health care is a complete disaster, but you fix it by voting in the right people.
All right. Let me ask you this, Dave, and I realize a little stretch out of the box here, but let's say there's something with this federal audit. Let's say the feds come in and they go, hey, wait a minute, we gave you guys $240-something million. You mismanaged it. It didn't go anywhere. In fact, the whole thing was a sham. Can the legislature at that point step in and say, all right, enough is enough. Let's repeal this and start over?
Well, actually, from day one, the director of Cover Oregon has been saying that, you know what, if this doesn't work out, we need to kill it, and we need to move on to something else. So absolutely, they could do that, and that's been proposed by several of the legislators. Look, this thing is such a disaster. It's just time to cut our losses and go back to square one and figure out what we're going to do. Maybe we need to get ourselves into the go with somebody else. There's states out there that have made these things work. I mean, Utah's been doing this for several years.
All right.
You know, so those are other, but no, in answer to your question, yeah, that's absolutely an option.
Okay. Anything else that's got your alarm up?
Well, no, nothing's got my alarm up. I think one of the other things that that folks need to know is that from a budget standpoint, things are pretty quiet. There's going to be a few adjustments, and from that standpoint, this is going to be a good session. There's going to be some minor adjustments, which in fact you would expect, and in that case, the system is working the way it really ought to work.
That's good. Well, always good to see you, Dave, and best to you. Keep us informed. Look forward to having you back often. And how's your campaign going?
Going great. Going super.
Attaboy. And people want to get involved. What do they do?
Well, go to my website, theDotterrer.com. Contact me directly, however you want to do this. But if you want to get involved, we welcome everybody.
All right. Thanks, pal. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market. But at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
All right, we're back, and it's always a delight to have John Mittendorf in the house with us. He's kind of our resident researcher, apologist, dude. And he also worked with Answers in Genesis, and he'll come to your church and give seminars and do all kinds of things to help you better defend the faith and understand some scripture. And we've been dealing with a fascinating topic. And is there really a God, and how to know God exists? And the reason we've done this series is to help you to defend your faith. And today we're going to try to wrap this up, but I tell you what, he's got a couple of big questions, John.
We're going to cover that at the end. If God is eternal, and he is,
yes,
what was he doing before he created? There's a huge time gap there, right?
So was there a beginning?
We're going to get to that. And then secondly, who made God?
Who made God?
Who made God? Those questions come up occasionally. But the notes are available as of today.
Okay.
I finally finished them. And you can either get them here or you can get them from me. And for the people that are listening or watching, my email is hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com.
hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com.
So just write me, and I'd be happy to send you a copy of the notes, and they're probably, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 pages long, something like that.
And today is part 3, so I'm telling you, each stack of these notes is a book, and John has done his homework. Well, I don't want to eat up too much time. Let's get into this.
Okay, let's get into this, and as we've talked about, we started this program.
Is there a God?
Let me hit the...
They may have to do it in there for you.
It's not advancing.
Okay. Okay, we got this one on. Let me help you with that a little bit. Anyway,
there we go. We started off with what God are we considering, and if you want to advance one more.
Okay.
And basically what we started talking about, it's the God of gods, the God that created the universe, and of course there's only one God that died on a cross to save us from our sins.
Okay.
And of course created the universe, all the same God. So we're not talking about Hinduism, Buddhism, and all the references. And this one right here, Perry, is where we started with the 4 evidences of God. And our past series we've covered information. In other words, information just doesn't come from nothing.
Right.
You have to have a sender and a receiver. Moral values. We're the only entities on earth that really can tell the difference from right and wrong. We're born with that innate ability. Where does that come from? Where does that come from, see? And God has placed that in every person on this earth. But today, let's cover these 2, creation and conversion. And I think out of the 4 that you have here, creation is probably the most visible evidence of a God. Why? It's all around us.
Yeah.
It's all around. All you have to do is look in the universe. And you know, both evolution, if you can go forward one more. Now, why is it working for you and it wasn't working for me?
You got a dirty finger.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and there's 2, I think there's 2 subsets of this. When you talk about creation, it's either creation or evolution, and I love the comment by Dr. George Wald, and he's a Nobelist from Harvard. And I think he summarizes it very succinctly. When it comes to the origin of life on this earth, there are only 2 possibilities. Creation or spontaneous generation, which is evolution.
Right.
Which one is it? And first of all, the Bible is very, very clear and straightforward on where everything came from. Creation. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But one of my favorites is Romans 1:20. Let me read that. For since the creation of this world, even his eternal... Let me back up. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so they were without excuse. It's very clear that God has made everything that we see, and he holds everybody on this planet accountable to him because of what we see day in and day out. And yet we refuse to do that.
Yeah.
We refuse to do
acknowledge
that.
it, yeah.
So that's one side, according to Dr. Wald. The other side is evolution, which you and I have discussed for a long time on the Dove. And now let's go back to creation just for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. And on evolution is also very straightforward and clear about where everything came from. And evolution, as we've discussed before, is basically everything came from nothing. It evolved from nothing to what we see today, and it's a godless, humanistic, naturalistic theory. There's
Theory.
Theory. I'm choosing my words carefully.
Yeah.
There's just one major problem.
What?
Evolution is impossible. And it's unscientific, irregardless of what people think. And you and I have discussed that numerous times, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but I could just go over very quickly this morning to say that evolution violates all, not some, not most, all of the scientific principles of the universe and science. All of them.
Wow.
And you've asked me in the past, sometimes we're discussing, oh, what do scientists do with that?
Yeah. What do they do with that?
Well, easy. They just raise the rug and sweep it underneath and lower the rug back down. And then a DVD comes along, like the one that you sent out to a lot of listeners of the Dove, Evolution versus God, where Ray Comfort walks into colleges to the heads of the departments, PhDs in biology, geology, chemistry, and he says, can you give me one example of why you know evolution is true? Or can you give me one example of a species going to another species? And they look at the camera and they don't say anything because they know in their heart, particularly when they're on camera, they can't justify it.
They can't.
They can't justify it. That's one reason why I love talking about evolution and creation, is because you know where the truth is. The truth is on your side. And just a couple of examples for the people that are listening. Evolution violates the first law of thermodynamics. And the definition of a law is there is no known alternative. None. First law of thermodynamics. You cannot create energy. So where'd the energy for the Big Bang come from? Second law of thermodynamics, everything is running down. Evolution says, no, everything's running up. Take a banana, put it on the table at home, and give it a couple days. What's it do?
Yeah, well, comes real ripe.
Yeah, it changes. And then you have the law of biogenesis. Life only comes from pre-existing life. So where'd the original life come from? You had to have a creator. And it goes cause and effect, and it just goes on and on and on. So when you take evolution and you boil it down to its essentials, it's irrelevant. So really, if Dr. Wald is correct, and he is, there's only two options. I'm not going to say E.T. is a third option, because there's absolutely no evidence for that whatsoever. Either God did it or evolution did it. Well, the Bible tells us exactly how he did it. Evolution tries to tell us how they do it, but they're completely wrong. So it really leaves one choice. It's just a great example of the existence of a God. When you look at the universe, Perry, it demands and cries out for a creator. If somebody wants to believe in evolution, they have to subscribe to the theory that the president's heads on Mount Rushmore happened over thousands of years of rain and erosion.
Yeah, and they made it through the flood.
Yeah, or a can of Coke can just, you have to put your thinking hat on. Okay, let's say that I'm an evolutionist and I believe in evolution. Okay, all of what we see came from nothing, started from the Big Bang, and et cetera, et cetera. And if a person wants to believe that, they would also have to believe that a can of Coca-Cola suddenly appeared from nothing. You're saying exactly the same thing, but yet the Coca-Cola scenario is ridiculous, it's funny, but yet for some reason evolution is not so funny, but they're exactly the same. Or I'm walking along the beach and I find a Rolex watch, and if I was an evolutionist, I would say, gee, look at that. That came together from the chemicals in the ocean and washed up on the beach, and here it is. It's ridiculous, right?
Right.
Evolution is no different. It's ridiculous.
I'm still amazed that the academic and science community supports it.
They have to. They have to. Because if you want to believe that the universe and human life, let's just say the cosmos, was created by a creator, God, the minute you believe that and you say, yes, there is a God, you're held accountable to God. He is the ultimate judge. And so evolution gives me a way, offers me a way to say, yes, everything that I see around us came from nothing, therefore I'm accountable to nobody, therefore I am my own God.
Right.
I decide what I want to do.
Yeah.
And therein is the bottom line.
All right.
Pretty simple, right?
Pretty simple.
Let's go to number 4.
All right.
And that's conversion.
Okay.
And the parallel that I drew in conversion, Perry, it's interesting. When you think about this, it's really easy. We tend to take, I think, practical experience and common sense and push it aside and go for the high-tech stuff, but you don't have to. If you look at a court of law, let's say that you and I go in and you're the defendant and I'm the plaintiff. And so the judge is sitting there and he's listening to you and he's listening to me. Now, you're a lot better looking than I am, so he would probably side with you, right? What can I say?
Peggy may agree, but...
So what's the tiebreaker is a witness. When a witness comes in, or witnesses come in and they say, I saw John or Perry do so-and-so, that is a game changer.
Right, the game changer.
A witness has credibility because they witnessed the event. And yet when we talk about conversion, how many people over the centuries have turned their life over to Christ, and in an instant Christ has dramatically, and I'm going to use the word transform, their life 180 degrees, and a person is not able to transform their life. In other words, one day you're not something, the next day you're something else. You can't do that. However, when you look at down through history, how many millions and millions, or we can probably easily say billions of people could walk into a courtroom and say, yes, I gave my life to Jesus Christ, God, and God ultimately transformed or immediately transform my life. I know there is a God because He's the only person that could do that.
Right.
And that's conversion.
That's the
and
witness.
That's conversion.
Right.
And so when I say conversion, witness, testimony, you have a testimony, I have a testimony. Every Christian who's given their life to Christ and had their life changed has a testimony of what Christ has done for them. And in a court of law, that would be admissible. Admissible. So when we talk about this series we've been doing, the 4 basic things, we started off with information. Where did information come from? You have to have a receiver and a sender. Right. If we're the receiver, who's the sender? It's God. Then we talked about moral values. We're the only, I'm going to say, entities or living things on earth that has. Now, the Bible, one thing I didn't mention the last time was, yes, we have a sin nature, according to the Bible, according to Paul. However, we still have the ability to differentiate between right and wrong.
Yeah. All right, we're going to try to bring this into a landing if we possibly can in just a few moments. John Mittendorf's with us, and again, these notes are available. We'll tell you how you can get a copy of them when we come back.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Okay, we're back, and John Mittendorf's with us, and we've been doing a series, Is There Really a God? And how to know,
and how do you prove that?
And how do you prove that? And how to know that God exists. And we are wrapping this up here in the next few moments, and all of the notes that we've done over these sessions are now available. And we'll have them here at theDove. You can come on by and pick up a copy, or you can email John at
hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com.
Okay, hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com. All right, the big question. Where did God come from?
Beats me. What do you think?
Well, I've been faced with that question a lot. And the only thing I can do is say that, how can I answer this shortly? He doesn't exist in our
in our world.
In our world. I mean, we're subject to time. He's not.
Correct.
So therefore, our human brain can't get around that. In fact, the Scripture says, "Eye is not seen, ear is not heard, neither is it entered the heart of man, the things that God has prepared for them that love Him." So there's another dimension out there that we can't get our brain around.
The metaphysical world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the answer to the question is simple, but our human ability to get our arms around it is extremely difficult because, as you just mentioned, basically everything that we do, our world, 24-hour day, is based on the clock. What time is it? What time am I getting up? What time do I have to be so-and-so? So when we apply that then to God, and the Bible tells us He's eternal, has no beginning, has no end. When we go to heaven, how long are we going to be in heaven?
Well, forever is forever.
Forever. Well, okay, but how do you define forever? In other words, there's no end. It's forever. It's hard to get your arms around.
It's another dimension.
It's a whole other dimension that we're not. Yeah, and that's why being able to explain this, if somebody asks you, okay, Perry, well, who made God? And you say, well, the Bible says He's eternal. And then you get these deer in the headlights look, and they go, what? Because you don't, 1 + 1 does not equal 2, and it should, but it doesn't. Okay. It doesn't. And so if you look at the Bible, as an example, a couple of verses, and I just wrote these down real quick. 1 Timothy 1:17, now to the King eternal, immortal, Deuteronomy 33:27, the eternal God, Romans 1:20, His eternal power, and so on. So the answer to the question is, God is outside of our time. We don't understand that, but He is. Everything that we do is based on time. The minute that we were born, our clocks start ticking. And there's going to be one day that the clock stops ticking. But God doesn't have a clock like that. And what makes that difficult is that when we get to our next question, okay, what was God doing before He created? There had to be this eternity before. That's true, before He created. Then, as long as we're talking about time this morning, when did time really start?
Well, I don't know if we can answer that question.
We can. Let's go to the next question. What was God doing before creation? He's outside of time, but time really only started to apply to us and to our relationship with God in Genesis 1:1 at creation. In creation, Genesis 1:1 says, "In the beginning," there's your time right there. God created the heavens and the earth. That's when time started. So to be able to say what was God doing, yeah, it's difficult to answer that question from our perspective, but basically because He's an eternal entity, He's just eternal. He always was. He wasn't made, and He was in eternity, and then He decided at some point in time, there's time again, I'm going to create the heavens and the earth, which is Genesis 1:1. Now, if you can get your hands around that, that's basically what the Bible says, it makes it a little bit easier, but from our clock perspective, our clock didn't start until Genesis 1:1.
Therefore, evolutionists try to put a timeline on it, and that's where they come in with these billions of years.
And there's one reason for that.
Yeah.
I believe, thoroughly believe, as does Answers in Genesis, Institute for Creation Research, and a lot of creationist organizations, that the Bible is very clear on biblical chronology, that the age of the earth, and science also supports this to a large degree, that the age of the earth and the universe is around 6,000 to 7,000 years old. Now, if it turns out to be 10,000, 15,000, I can go with that. It's not 15 billion years old. And science does not really support that when you start looking at the way they date things, at the rock strata and a lot of other things. Now, why does evolution need 15 billion years for the universe and 4.5 billion years for the earth?
Well, it's the only way they could possibly make evolution fit.
That's
so that
correct.
One thing evolves into something else.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Evolution, one of the basic principles of evolution is if you give me enough time, anything is bound to happen.
Yeah.
And then we go back to, well, really? So could Windows 8, let's see, what's the newest operating system for Apple? Is it Leopard? Mountain Lion. It's Mountain Lion.
Yeah.
Can Mountain Lion generate itself if I give it enough time?
Sure.
Sure, yeah. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So when you put on the hat of common sense, the whole concept of evolution is ridiculous and silly.
Well, I think there's a good point here. I never thought of it that way, and that is time began, from our perspective, the moment He started creating. That's when time began.
And what let me butt in just for a second. And what we try to do out of that, Perry, is to take the eternal, ever-present God and cram Him into our 24-hour clock.
Right.
Which we cannot do because He's eternal. And that's where we have difficulty. We say, okay, I've got my 24-hour clock over here, but then God has His metaphysical, eternal clock over here, and the two don't really mix.
You know, through the years, I've had a chance to interview people that have had either heaven experiences or out-of-body experiences. Right. And there are some similarities there, and that is that there was a sense of timelessness, and there was a sense of incredible peace. In other words, there was another dimension far beyond our human capability of sensing or understanding. Some will say that the closest that you can get to experiencing that is when you're dreaming, because you are in all positions, all places at all times, and you notice everything around you, but you never really see yourself, but you see the other thing.
Right, yeah.
You know? And so there is that feeling that that's probably the closest you can experience, that there is another dimension. Right. But even that doesn't begin to describe those who have had a heaven experience where it was indescribable.
When you start thinking, Perry, about time or the lack of time, I think it puts a whole new perspective on heaven and eternity that I don't think as humans, because, and here again, try to describe heaven. You can't, because we try to describe heaven in worldly terms, experiences, and yet it's totally different than that.
Yeah, eye has not seen.
Yeah, and so eye has not seen, and so I don't think we have a clue is what's in store for us.
Yeah.
We have no, if we did, I think you would see the church more visible, aggressive, on Earth Day being the salt of the earth than we are today. We just don't really understand.
Let me say to our viewers and listeners, if you want a copy of the series, of the notes of the series, we have them here at the Dove, and John has made them available, by emailing him. And again, John. your email?
hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com.
I'm sorry, I don't remember that. hispeoplerejoice@gmail.com. All right, coming up, we're going to be talking about a topic that is really accelerated in some of the Christian talk shows and even preaching shows, and that is the blood moons, and the 4 blood moons in particular, which are basically lunar eclipses that have to do with the nation of Israel. Now, a lot's been said about this, and you're going to tackle it, help us get our head around it. What has been your beginning thought as you look into this?
My beginning thought, Perry, is it seems to me that when you look at us, the church, that periodically things come along that tend to sidetrack us and divert our attention. And you say, divert our attention from what? Your relationship with Christ. Bottom line, the bottom line. And so a couple examples would be here. A couple years ago we had Lammerman, and they discovered in the blood system that linked up with cells there was a cross. Well, that's Jesus' sign to us that there's a link between Jesus and the blood system. Well, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But can you categorically say that's Jesus' sign to us that he designed our circulatory system? Another one would be the Bethlehem Star. Can you categorically say that when that hit the headlines that that was categorically true? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, is the way that I look at it. Now we're into the 4 blood moons, and just a quick definition. A blood moon is when you have a total solar eclipse and the moon moves in front of the sun, you kind of have this red aura around the moon, and the moon turns to red. In astronomy, I have to stop and think for a minute and make sure I say astronomy. Not astrology.
Yeah, okay.
It's astronomy, and there's nothing. Astronomy is fine, but the moon turns red, blood red, and that's where the name comes from. And it's being linked up now that there's been specific periods of blood moons in astronomy, and a lot of this comes out of NASA. Some of it comes out of NASA, and that's all true. That when you take that, you say, yes, there's been some interesting things happen in Israel at the same time as the blood moons. And so now the inference is becoming, well, we have the 4th blood moon coming up next year in 2015. And when you relate that to Israel, you could make a case for the fact that something dramatic is going to happen in Israel. And some people, I'm saying some people, are starting to say that could be the Ezekiel 38 Gog and Magog war. Now, could that be? It could be. Can you make that as a categorical statement? And that is my question.
All right.
And that's what we're going to discuss next month.
I think, and your caution here is, sometimes people will latch onto that and propagate that more than they will the gospel. More
they will the gospel, or more than their relationship with Jesus Christ, which is the most important.
We're going to start that series the next time John is on. Again, if you want a copy of these notes, get a hold of us here at the Dove, and we'll make those available to you. John, this has been a fascinating series, and I want to say thank you for your long, hard work and your study.
Well, you know, it's my pleasure. But you know, Perry, on a series like this, you know who I think gets the most benefit out of it?
Me.
We do. Yeah, we do. Doing the research for it.
You get a hold of us, and we'll get you a copy of the notes. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jim, and I work at the Dove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.